That's fine. You take it.
I like them though. Just be careful that you don't rock back too hard or you'll be on the floor.
It's now time to call our meeting to order, and it's 5:30, and we're going to start on time, and we'll stop whenever y'all finish. They would like for you just to look around. I think y'all can see that this room is a marked improvement over the room that we had. We can put about 104 citizens in here versus 45 in the last old room that we had, which this is it. We just knocked the wall down and renovated. But we certainly, again, appreciate each one of y'all coming here tonight. And I'd like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones. And I repeat myself all the time, but if your phone does ring, just please go out into the corridor, you can answer it, and then you can come back in. I appreciate seeing Dwayne Grice back there with the media, and Al Hackle is here with Statesboro Herald. Is there anyone else? As always, we appreciate your coming. If a glitch happens, who knows? This is the first time that we're in this room. If the lights go out, we're going to try to make it through it. Microphones, we're going to have to get used to them. They're new and a little different than what we've had before. Time clock. There's no reason under the sun that you should want to know how many minutes that you have left, because it's got about, the numbers on it is probably at least 2 to 3 times larger. And, you know, of everything that we've done, that's one thing that I really enjoy. And because no one is going to get any more time than the other to speak. Having said all of that, then we're going to have an invocation and a pledge by Commissioner Stringer. If y'all would please stand with us, please.
Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for everything you give us every day, Lord. I pray that we may remember you in everything that we do and say, and I pray that you will bless us here, bless everyone here and every family represented here, Lord, and bless this commission as we make decisions for the good of the county, Lord. I pray that you will bless all our families and bless the all the emergency responders and fire and EMS, law enforcement that are working every day to keep us all safe and make it possible for us to have these meetings, Lord. I just pray that we may glorify you in the things we do. I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'm going to ask Ms. Mincy White to call the roll for the commissioners, please.
I, Venus Mincy White, present as Clerk of the Board of Commissioners of Bulloch County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman Roy Thompson.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Toby Connor.
Aye.
Commissioner Kurt Deal.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jappy Stringer.
Aye.
I've determined that we have all the members of the Bulloch County Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct business for the good of the citizens of Bulloch County. I now yield the floor back to the chairman.
Thank you very much. We're going to take about 5 minutes and do something, might take 6.5, that I'm adding on before we approve the zoning agenda. And it's a accommodation for fellow Commissioner Walter Gibson. And Walter served with us for many, many, many years. And I'm going to ask County Manager Tom Couch if he will present this accommodation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may ask if you all would, please, the commissioners and the clerk follow me down to the podium and face the audience behind the podium here. And I'll ask the former commissioner and his wife, Ms. Dale, to come before the podium. You guys just come over here. You two come in front. And you might want to pair off to the right and the left of the podium somewhat evenly, and then you'll come forward and we'll be taking a picture. Mr. Gibson now. Citizen Gibson. And Mrs. Gibson.
Just plain.
Just plain. Of course, you were one of the original 7 who hired me, and I'm overwhelmingly thankful for it because my experience there has been absolutely great, and it couldn't have been done without your part. And it gives me great privilege to read this commendation to you. And I was so nervous about it, I almost called it a condemnation. However, I quickly pivoted, but if you'll allow me, please. And this is a very special commendation. By the Governor of the State of Georgia, a commendation. Whereas Mr. Walter C. Gibson retired as a Bulloch County Commissioner on December 31st, 2022, after 22 years of dedicated service to the county. And whereas during his tenure, Commissioner Gibson distinguished himself with his deep knowledge and abilities related to Bulloch County government and the Bulloch County school system. And whereas Commissioner Gibson has served his community and the state of Georgia in many capacities throughout his career, serving in leadership positions in Georgia FFA and on many boards and commissions throughout the state. And whereas Commissioner Gibson exhibited professionalism and compassion in all aspects of his career and elected position, providing leadership and guidance to help Bulloch County continue to thrive. And whereas it is an honor to join the Bulloch County Commission in congratulating Commissioner Gibson on his retirement now. Therefore, I, Brian P. Kemp, Governor of the State of Georgia, do hereby commend Walter C. Gibson. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the Executive Department to be affixed this 25th day of May in the year of our Lord, 2023. Again, Brian P. Kemp. Congratulations.
Thank you. We'll stand right here.
Anything you'd like to say?
Where?
Come up to the mic. They won't hear you if you don't.
I tried this new system. Thank you for the invite. And turn this way, I guess. And I just want to thank the citizens of Bulloch County, number one, for allowing me to serve for 6 terms on this board. Retired from the school system and got encouraged to get into it, and I got into it, and luckily I won it. And 6 times total. So anyway, it was a pleasure to serve the citizens of this county. That was our number one goal. And it was also a pleasure to work with these gentlemen here and others who are not here with us tonight. That was a fabulous experience working with, I say gentlemen because that's what they are. And they know what the service concept is as well as I do. So it was a great honor to serve with you guys and represent our county, my county. And going back years ago, my mother's people and my dad's people originated from this county. My grandmother was born and raised here, so I do have some ties here still. And I also would like to thank the governor who, although he's not here to do something like this, it was a great honor and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Couch.
Thank you. And maybe with Dwayne, Cindy, and Orel's direction or any closely professional photographer, tell us how you would like the picture to be arranged.
Commissioners, if you'll come up closer, the podium is kind of spreading y'all out a little bit too much. There you go. And then, can you see this?
Commissioner Simmons,
Yeah, Commissioner Simmons, if you'll scoot over. You can stay. There you go. Perfect.
You can see us, we can see you. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Again, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Do I look good?
You look fine.
Thank you very much.
No, it's important that I.
Thank you, sir. You can continue to do what you did. Thank you very much.
One more thing. I'm going to show you something that seemingly we have lost in all of this construction. And I want each and every one of you, especially you employees, if you happen to see it under a box, in a box, on the roof, in the cellar, in the basement, wherever, we need it because this is actually coming up here and on these tables in case it water from plastic bottles leak or something. But I'm going to show it to you and then I'll sit back down. This is it. We had ordered 12. We only have 11. We started with 12. So it's probably fallen off somewhere. Y'all had houses built or new offices or something, and something inevitably always disappears. So if you see it, we need it, and just contact any of us. Next, we have approval of the zoning agenda, and I'm sure all of y'all have read it. And if I seek a motion for the zoning agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor of the approving the zoning agenda, show of hands. Unanimous approval. All right, there it is. All right, James, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item 1 tonight is a rezone request by VALNOC LLC. It's a rezone of 76.7 acres. The rezone request is for the property to go from an Ag 5 to an R25 residential 25,000 square foot lot minimum for the purpose of a single-family residential subdivision. It's located on Anderson Cemetery Road. This is the current zoning map. As you'll see, the property is highlighted in blue there. Highway 67 is just to the east of the property along Anderson Cemetery Road. And I got ahead of myself, but Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with the conditions that were included in the staff report by a 4-0 vote. And staff recommendation is that if approval is considered, we do have a number of conditions for consideration to go along with that. This is an aerial of the property. It's currently used in an agricultural use. There are some wetlands on the property. I'll go back. It's just to the southwest border. You see the creek on the western boundary there. The applicant is they're proposing not to disturb those wetlands as part of the development, so those would not be no concern there. But anyways, this is the county maintained dirt road, Anderson Cemetery Road. This would be looking to the west. And then this is looking to the east, and Highway 67 and it is in the picture there, the stop sign. And then there is a right-of-way paved portion just off of Highway 67. And this is the proposed rezone sketch that was provided by the applicant. And with that, I will turn it back over to the commission.
Okay. You can call it.
We have Joey Maxwell. We have Joey Maxwell.
Good evening. Joey Maxwell, Maxwell Reddick and Associates. I have with me tonight Jack Connor and John Lavender. They are the property owners and developers for this property. The sketch that you have here in front of you, that was one of our initial sketches. As we've received more data, we have revised this slightly. Unfortunately, we have lost a few lots in that regard. But the overall intent of the subdivision, the layout of the subdivision is the same. So with that, I really don't have anything else to add other than I'm here to answer any questions that y'all may have. Understand as we get into design, we may have to come back and meet with staff and come back before this body again in the future. But as we get into that, we'll address that at that time. But if there's any questions that y'all have in regard to the development, I'd be glad to answer those. Otherwise, I'll yield the floor to any opposition.
Somebody speak? Okay, there is no one's signed up to speak in opposition, so we'll turn it over to the commissioners now for any questions that they might would have. And remember, I mentioned glitches a few minutes ago. I want to try something. If you pull the mic a little to you or lean over.
I'm a little too tall.
Yeah.
We're just experimenting tonight, so.
Okay. I'm
have to lean-
soft-spoken anyways.
You are taller. You may have to lean into it a little, but we'll make a note of an adjustment for folks like you.
Set it up high. All right.
Any questions? Then, hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept this proposal.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, agenda item 2 tonight is a rezone request by Shannon Hurd, who has submitted the application to rezone 0.4 acres from an R15 single-family residential zoning to an R2 two-family residential zoning for the purpose of constructing one duplex housing structure on the parcel. All right, this is located on Dodd Circle, and the western parcel boundary is Pamela Way. It's on the north, kind of the north side of Statesboro. And currently, the parcel is used as, well, it's just vacant. There was a single-family home structure there previously, but it became in disrepair and was removed. But going back to the zoning map, you'll see R15 is zoned for everything around it. There are a number of duplex structures within that R15 zone, which I can only surmise that they predate 1994 zoning ordinance. So there is similar uses nearby. The left side of the screen would show how the proposed duplex would fit on the property. And then this is pictures of the property when the sign was placed. Right across the street, what you see there is a duplex structure as well. So with that, I will say that Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with the conditions by 4-0 vote. The final, or staff recommendation is for approval with conditions of the staff report.
And I see there's no one signed up in opposition tonight. So, commissioners, you have any questions? Then hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept this rezoning with the condition.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval.
Item 3 is a rezone request by Eagle Village Development LLC, who is seeking to rezone 20 acres from an R2 zoning to a manufactured home park for the purpose of expanding an existing manufactured home park next to this parcel. This is the current zoning map, as you'll see within that property that is highlighted in blue. The R2 with conditions is the portion that would be rezoned to manufactured home park. And I believe at the time when that property was rezoned to R2, there was mention about reverting back to a manufactured home park zoning. However, without any, there's not really any mechanism to automatically go back to that zoning without applicant action. And so Eagle Village Development has, again, applied and would make it part of their existing development that you see here. These are pictures of the property when we placed the sign. That's actually 301 is the entryway to the property. And so from 301, you would travel through the current existing development into the number of lots that are highlighted, circled there in that sketch plan. And again, it would follow along with the original manufactured home park plan. With that, I'll mention that Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by 4-0 vote. And then staff recommends approval of the rezone request. And Mr. Jared Jennings is here tonight as the applicant.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm here just to answer any question. After getting into the project, the R2 development proved to be too expensive. So we would ask that it go back to MHP.
We have any questions? Mr. Jennings, I would like to compliment you on one thing. You've probably got one of the nicest mobile home parks in Bulloch County, I know.
Thank you.
It does not go unnoticed. You're keeping it clean, presentable, and we want to thank you for that.
All right. Thank you.
Some people could take a lesson from you, but we thank you again for keeping it.
Any questions?
I don't think we have any questions. So, okay. Now, any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the rezone. Second.
Motion to approve. We have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you.
Mr. Pope, before you start, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recuse myself for the next two items. I have a personal interest in both applications, so I will not be voting.
All right. I think it's proper then to ask you to step down. Might go over to First Baptist Church or somewhere.
All right. Item 4 tonight is a rezone request by Timmy and Julie Rushing, who are seeking to rezone 44.5 acres from Ag 5 to a highway commercial zone with the intent to operate a recreational vehicle park and campground. The property is located at 16200 Highway 46. This is the property that is seeking the rezone, highlighted in blue. As you'll see, the purple color there, that's zoned highway commercial. So it is, this parcel was zoned, I believe, probably in 94 when the original zoning map was developed, which left a portion of the property zoned in Ag 5. So this application would cover, again, that Ag 5 portion of the total. This is the property with current aerial view. It's presently used as a dirt pit for surface mine, in which that would become part of the development as they propose. This is the entryway from Old Highway 46. And as you'll see, this is the driveway into the property, of which wouldn't be required for improvement per our development standards in the zoning ordinance now. And Let's see. Would it help the commission if I pull up the site map? Or I know it's in your staff report, but would it help y'all or? Yeah, okay. I'm just going to go through to the next one because I believe it's in there. Yeah, there it is. So this is the proposed site map for the RV park and campground, which, of course, as you go through the development process, that usable land may go down a little bit, but you'll see the Ag 5 zoning and the highway commercial zoning is overlaid into the development map, of which a portion of that would be impacted by this zoning case to allow for those extra spaces. With that, I'll say Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with conditions by a 4-0 vote. And then staff recommends approval of the rezone request. And I'll turn it over to Mr. John Dotson, who's agent for the applicant.
I'm not quite as tall as Maxwell, so I'll lower it if that's okay.
Just lean into that mic, brother.
Thank you again. My name is John Dotson with Maxwell Reddick. It's my pleasure to represent Mr. and Ms. Russian this afternoon. As Mr. Pope alluded, the property is split zone, so we're asking for the Ag 5 portion to be rezoned to H highway commercial, so an RV park can be developed. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
We have any questions? We have no one signed up to speak, so I ask it again. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the request with the standards that.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. Okay.
All right. Item 5 is related to this previous case. It's a conditional use request for a recreational vehicle park and campground for the entire 78.46 acres within the parcel previously mentioned in item 4. So access would be along Old 46. Again, this conditional use would be subject to, it'd have to meet the supplemental standards of 1443 and 1437 of our zoning ordinance that was adopted in April, and which that addresses the buffers and, various items like that. And so we did have one condition as part of the recommendation for approval, and that deals with a fire plan. And then lastly, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with the condition by a 4-0 vote. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. John Dotson.
Again, my name is John Dotson. This would be, we're seeking approval of the conditional use for the entire portion of property. Y'all just agreed to rezone it, so this is the next step in the process. Again, brief, but I'll answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions? Then, hearing the questions, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve with the condition.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's it. That's all. Okay. Before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do we have any other discussion or modifications desired by the county manager or the board?
The county manager is none this evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
If there's none from the board, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the general agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the general. I'll make a motion to approve the general agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval, thank you. Our consent agenda tonight is as follows. To approve a resolution to confirm the name of Country Road 520 to be Old Black Creek Road. Number 2, approve and ratify a memorandum of understanding by and among the Development Authority of Bulloch County, CG Statesboro LLC, and Hanan Systems Alabama Corporation. 3, approve an economic development agreement by and among the Development Authority of Bulloch County and Ecoplastic America Corporation. 4, approve acceptance of a grant award from FEMA for the Bulloch County Fire Department in the amount of $269,672.72 with local match funds of $26,927.28. 5 is a motion to grant an alcoholic beverage license for retail beer and wine sales to J. Gajana. Okay,
Gajanana.
that's exactly what I was going to say. LLC located at 2180 Highway 25, Statesboro, Georgia 30461. Number 6, motion to grant an alcoholic beverage license for retail beer and wine sales to Neal 2022 LLC located at 21196 U.S. Highway 80 East, Statesboro, Georgia 30461. Now, we can vote on these collectively, or if you would like to single out anything to go in under new business to be voted on and discussed, what's your pleasure?
Chairman, I make a motion that we vote on these collectively.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. Moving on to new business. We need Mr. Brad Deal, County Engineer, is going to come up and discuss this item with us.
Thank you. Good evening. Brad Deal, County Engineer. As you may recall, we had a paving petition for Antioch Church Road a while back, and we were able to successfully acquire all the right-of-way that's required for the project. And this particular contract would include some clearing and grading, clearing and grubbing, and some grading, storm drain installation, and of course installing the rock base and paving the road as well. We had recently updated the budget during the last budget cycle for this project to $200,000, and the low bid came in at $184,750. So it was below our budget number. And the low bidder, which was Ellis Wood Contracting, met all of our bid specifications. So I would recommend approval, and let me know if you have any questions.
Commissioners, you have any questions?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
A motion to approve and a second. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we're going to move into public comments. And at this time, I'll recognize those citizens who've signed up to address the board. Once your name is called, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and make your comments. All speakers who are recognized will be allotted 5 minutes. I think all of y'all have been here before. The clock is on the desk to your right. And if you can pay attention to it, you can take all 5 minutes or not. But when the buzzer goes off, your time is up. Finish the sentence and you may return to your seat. And then if we have any questions or comments, we'll ask them of you. First one.
Bill Emily.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, distinguished guests. My name is Bill Emily. My residence is 9018 Oakfield Drive, Statesboro, Georgia. I am an elected representative of the Bulloch County Senior Citizens Property Tax Owners, which is numbering over 1,470 people. So I'm representing over 1,470 senior citizens that own property in Bulloch County. Bulloch County Seniors property owners at the 20 June meeting voiced their disapproval and rejection of the proposed 2024 Bulloch County Commissioners property tax increase. I believe the assistant county manager stated that it's trying to catch up on things that we probably should have been doing and haven't been doing. And I believe the county commissioner echoed, we have a long-standing problem when we've never really funded out levels of service in alignment with our existing growth rates, and particularly for personal and particular public safety items. It seems like that the commissioners consistently have approved budgets by increasing property taxes and placing the financial burden upon existing property owners for previously approved projects has always been in question. I'm getting phone calls from several senior citizens stating it seems like that we're approving projects, but we're not putting or seeking or finding the funding in place before we approve the projects. And thereby the projects are coming due, and now we have to raise funds or figure out where the funding is coming from, and we're led down to the road that the only alternative is raising property taxes. When we look at the property taxes today, or we look at financial income of the senior citizens of 2023, Social Security increased 5.9%. At the same time, Medicare Parts A and B insurance increased 14.9%. Inflation rate was 11.9%. The property taxes increased by 5.4%. Bulloch County school taxes increased by 5.54%. Thereby, the life savings reduction of your senior citizens was 31.84%. In other words, your senior citizens had to dip into their life savings 31.84%. And now with the 2024 budget going in place, that increases another 30%. So now our senior citizens are dipping into their life savings of 61.84%. I asked previously at the 20 meeting, what are we doing differently today with this budget that we haven't done in previous years, so we're not in the situation that we're playing catch up all the time? And it seems like it's not the growth of our situation that is causing this catch up. It's the lack of planning the funding for these projects, and projects being that when we're looking at industrial parks, that we're given property tax abatements. So what is property taxes really paying for? Essential services? I believe so. I believe that's what the property taxes go into the general fund. What I'm striving and trying to bring forth is that on the June the 20th meeting brought before the commissioners was showing that your senior citizens are desperately asking and crying for your help. And at the same time, you're raising property taxes. You're asking your senior citizens to dig deeper and deeper into their life savings. How much more and how much deeper are they having to go to meet our financial needs? Thank you very much.
Lawton Sack.
Good evening, Commissioners. First of all, I'd like to start with a commendation of, first of all, Ms. King. She provided me with a bunch of information in regards to the budget and financial information. And also Ms. Venus Mincy White has provided a lot of information over the last week. They were very responsive in answering the questions that I provided to them. And I know they don't always get a thank you for what they are doing. Just a couple of items I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. The first one is in regards to the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Typically, those minutes are not approved until after the County Commission has addressed those items. So if there's any way going forward, we can put the unapproved minutes on the website so that we can take a look at those prior to the County Commission meeting. Just a simple request there. The next one's the bigger item. After the budget was approved on June 27th, I and a couple other people had the opportunity of meeting with the public safety officials after that meeting. And we were on the same page of pushing forward for this 1% sales tax increase in lieu of the millage rate increase. And every single one of them agreed this is something that we need to work on together as citizens and public safety officials. And I've spent the last week educating people on the upcoming millage rate increase that has been proposed, including talking to a bunch of people at the barbershop last week. And there is a lot of concern that is that was already shared by the first gentleman from senior citizens in this county. And I truly feel like that this 1% sales tax is the way for Bulloch County to move forward without burdening our senior citizens and our property owners. So I think it would be best for us to work alongside the citizens and these public safety officials and work with the commissioners and see if we can come up with this as being a permanent solution to an ever-increasing millage rate. And as we go into this time of public hearings for the millage rate increase, I want to ask simply that you spread out these meetings. I know there tends to be the tendency to kind of lump those together, but maybe spread those out through July, August, and September. I know by law one of those has to be at night, but I also encourage you to hold as many of those as you can at night. If you've ever been to an 8:30 meeting well, y'all have been to them obviously, they are not very well attended by the citizens of Bulloch County. So if we can hold as many of those at night as possible, I think that would be wonderful. And my final item is just a question. It was mentioned at the June 27th meeting that the budget had been worked on for a while, and also that there were other items that were coming up at some point. And I'll just wonder if there was a way for the commission to kind of inform us maybe of some bigger budget items that may be coming up for a vote in the months to come, so that we can garner citizen feedback and more efficiently have conversations with the commissioners going forward. So these are simple requests. I know the 1% sales tax isn't as simple as it looks, but I think it is a discussion, especially with so many of our public safety officials feeling like this is the best way to move forward for us to work together as citizens of Bulloch County. Thank you.
Lynn Fatika.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Leonard Fatika. I live at 201 Canterbury, Statesboro here. I just wanted to clarify something that was published in the paper from one of the vice chairs of the local Republican Party about appointments to the Board of Elections. By no means do we, as a Democratic Party, which I represent here tonight as their chairperson, want non-voting people on the Board of Elections. That would just cause a mass mess if there was an issue. So, as I stated, when the first time I've talked to you all, I quoted Senate Bill 202, and the reason I quoted Senate Bill 202 was I think it's something that the county should look towards on how to set up a Board of Elections. Whether that be expand the board from 3 to 5, I'm quite sure there are a lot of people that would be nonpartisan in this county that would be willing to sit on a Board of Election. I don't want any of my officers or myself to sit on a Board of Elections. I think that is just totally a conflict of interest. I'd rather work with the board like we have in the past and keep everything basically above board. Thank you.
We certainly appreciate y'all coming out tonight, and, we earnestly looking at sales tax avenue, anything we can come up with. We passed out a map last meeting, and it showed all the counties that touch Bulloch County that we still have the lowest taxes of all of them. And hopefully, we don't know what the end result is yet because we've not set the millage rate, but hopefully when it's all over with, we'll still be the cheapest county according to taxes. I ask commissioners, any of y'all want to respond to anything comments that you've heard?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I want to respond to Mr. Fatika's comments in just a minute, once we get past the tax stuff, whenever you fit.
Until we meet more, really don't have anything else to say about taxes at present time.
All right, well, Mr. Fatika, I hear you, and we have been getting a lot more than you saying something about this. And so we were going to have a meeting, but I'm not going to wait on it. We're going to handle some of it tonight. Mr. Sack, if you'd come to the front, please. Just so everybody will know, Mr. Sack, your position on the electoral board is what?
I am the secretary for the election board for Bulloch County.
And your position at the Republican Party is what?
I am the chairman of the Bulloch County Republican Party.
And I know me and you talked, and I
Yes,
know
sir.
you talked to several other commissioners and several other people in here, and we'll dig as far as we want to. Now, when you come to us about the appointment on that board, you were in the process and said that you would resign from the Republican Party. Right or wrong?
No, sir. I was a member of the executive committee of Bulloch County when I was given this appointment. I was running for office on March 11th. At that time, had no indication that I would win that race. It was understood that Mr. Larry Williams would be taken over as chairman of the party.
Well, I don't know exactly how far and how deep everybody wants to get in it, but I know the conversation that me and you had, and we were going to call you in for a meeting.
Yes.
But this presented itself tonight, and because of the sunshine law, and we really do watch that, whether people think so or not, there was going to be three of us to meet with you and the county attorney.
Yes.
And we was going to ask this same question. Now, the question's been asked, what is your intentions forward? As far as you're going to remain with the Republican Party on the Board of Elections?
Okay, I'll be more than happy to answer that. First of all, by Georgia code, the only stipulation there is that the officer of a party cannot serve as chairman of the election board. And so I've taken on the position of secretary for the election board, and Ms. Teresa Jackson is the chairman of the board. I do not plan to resign from either the board or the chairman of the Republican Party. I have served elections here for 20 years in Bulloch County. I've done absentee ballots here. I'm the one that has trained the past boards. I'm the one actually helped train Mr. Fatika and other people. I have the support of the mayor's wife, Adrienne McCollar. I've worked alongside many Democrats, including Yvette McCall and many others. I have a working relationship with Shantae. I worked under Ms. Pat Lanier-Jones, and believe it or not, actually worked under Lee DeLoach. I have a lot of knowledge. This is my passion to serve elections here in Bulloch County. I do not believe, because of my position as chairman of the Republican Party, that there's any kind of conflict that prevents me from serving the citizens of this county. As I said, I'm extremely knowledgeable. I have conversations with Representative Lehman Franklin, Senator Billy Hickman on election laws throughout the state. Thankfully, I've been able to formulate some of those laws, including Senate Bill 202. I can say without a doubt at the last meeting when I was called out for this, that the code section that was brought forward was for the state election board and not for the county election board. So I'm in full compliance with Georgia law and the intent of that law. And so I will continue forward in both positions.
Okay, I just wanted you to know that I was asked several questions. It just saves us from another meeting is all that, and everybody can hear it straight from you instead of coming through. So I guess that answered some people's questions on this board and in the audience. So unless another commissioner's got something they want to say, then I'm good, and I appreciate you answering my question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And again, we appreciate all of you coming. And now we're going to move into commission and staff. That was all. Staff comments. We'll start with staff first. Any staff members have any comments?
If the chairman will yield the floor, Ms. County Manager would like to make a few comments.
Yes, sir.
To begin with, some of these things are housekeeping items, but they're also planning items for the first and second quarters that we need to get a rather quick start on. This month in particular, we're going to get started on working on the county, state, and federal legislative agenda. I've been working closely already with Commissioner Deal and Commissioner Simmons on this, and we've got some ideas and strategies that we hope to share with the chairman and the rest of the board going forward. And as a matter of fact, I'd like to try to get together with both of you if you have any time for the remainder of the week, but I'll touch base tomorrow and see if we can pull together a meeting for half an hour or 45 minutes. I just want to discuss some ACCG policy meetings that are coming up and possibly a trip to DC to see our federal delegation. And that would probably occur in late September. We also may want to discuss future trips to Atlanta as well before, during, and after the next legislative session. In fact, one of the things I think we want to talk about, not only with Commissioners Deal and Simmons, but as a board, but what was referenced here this evening with regard to the potential of another 1% sales tax, which, according to some legislation, we're trying to work with ACCG in our state and federal affairs firm, Troutman Pepper, trying to put the legislation together and trying to put it in a format that will be understandable to not only the General Assembly, but maybe in the future local voters. And we would, in reference to what Mr. Sachs said, we would welcome any help or collaboration, because a very important piece of it is that I would ascertain that we would need to split the funding with the municipalities. And as I stated at the last meeting, population is the most logical way to do it. And if we did it by population, I think there'd be an increased chance for continuing renewal and would offer the most significant property tax relief mathematically. Second, with regard to finances, probably, and this would be directed, I think, again to Commissioner Simmons and then Rushing and Stringer. In all likelihood, I would anticipate having a couple of Public Facilities Authority meetings before the end of this year and before our annual meeting in January. I think we need to work on the possibility of some debt issuances, which would result in revenue bonds for both the Hyundai JDA infrastructure kicker that we were required to put in, but also to secure sewer capacity from the future Bryan County wastewater plant. And we'll be having some discussions about that in some briefings before we would actually call for a Public Facilities Authority meeting. But I think we're very close with Bryan County to establishing an intergovernmental agreement for all of the water and sewer issues related to Hyundai. On another matter related to finance, and again, this was referenced, I think, by our guest, Mr. Sack, the tax hearings. We're still trying to work with the tax assessor's office and the tax commissioner's office. And I think if we have any hearings, it would be not earlier than the week of July 24th. What has to happen is the tax assessors are still hearing appeals, and now they're in the non-residential or commercial property phase, and Mr. Newton, the chief assessor, doesn't feel like those meetings or those appeals will be completed until at least Friday the 14th. And as you know, again, referring to Mr. Sack's request to spread the meetings out, these meetings usually occur in about a 2 to 3 week period, but depending upon when the appeals are done and the tax assessor is ready to give us the information we need for public notices, the timeline is always very tight. And then ultimately you have to decide not only on the digest, the tax levy and the tax rate approval, but you'll have to do so not only for the county commission or Bulloch County and the Bulloch County Board of Education. So in that light, the Board of Education, while they may or may not have any Tabor hearings, that'll have to be closely coordinated for the final meeting to make the final approval of all of the property tax issues. But we will attempt to spread it out. Now, in all honesty, Mr. Sack, I don't know that we see a great deal of difference in attendance from morning or evening meetings, but I'll leave that to the discretion of the county commissioners as to whether they'd perhaps prefer to have them in the evening or not. And then we do have some statutory requirements to spread the meetings out in a certain and discrete way. But we'll examine those issues, and again, it'll be up to the Board of Commissioners to decide. Another housekeeping matter, and I may ask both Mr. Akins and Mr. Pope to step in on one or maybe two of these issues, but one thing that I think we need to look at before the end of the first half of the calendar year, probably before the holidays. I know I've talked about it for a long time, but we have to look at our occupational tax ordinance, and particularly the taxes that are charged. While we're not looking really to go up on any of the tax rates, we've been trying to examine the tax schedule that we have and look at it from an equity standpoint. And I think I told you several months ago, what we're finding is that in some cases, much larger employers are paying less on what I would call a unit cost or a per employee basis than very small business people. And we think that there may be some equity and fairness issues that we have to resolve. And as soon as we can pinpoint it, what we would probably recommend is just going at a unit cost rate or a rate per employee, which we anticipate might be in anywhere between the $13 to $18 per employee range. That doesn't include some of the fees, but we won't get in the weeds with that tonight. Just know that it's something that we have to examine. And once we're done with our examination, and if you are ready a few months down the road to act on it, then we'll be obligated by state law to have a public hearing. But I think whatever we come to will be defensible in terms of equity, fairness, and neutrality of the tax, and the transparency of it. So I'll move on to a couple more regulatory items real quick. We're also looking at doing some additional tweaks to the zoning ordinance. There's a couple of components that are significant, but we weren't able to get to during the zoning moratorium. We would have liked to very much, but we kind of put them in abeyance until we had a better opportunity. The beginning of the new fiscal year may allow us that, although it may take some months to adjust. But two areas of the ordinance that we have to look at are appendices pertaining to the sign ordinance. We don't think we'll be making anything but very, very minor changes to the sign ordinance, and that would be in the favor of applicants, because we found out that when we're getting into our overlay zoning district down at the I-16 301 interchange, that you probably noticed going back with some earlier development, that we had to come back and do a series of variances with Travel Centers for America, which are unnecessary if we just expanded our ordinance parameters somewhat. And then the parking regulations are just totally out of date, but again, we can have a deeper discussion about that later. And finally, this is where I may turn to either Mr. Akins or Mr. Pope, but a couple of these items are, well, one actually may not be zoning related. One may be related more so to the alcohol ordinance, and the other issue may be related to the zoning ordinance. But with the alcohol ordinance, we do have to make some minor tweaks in licensing parameters for liquor stores. I think we have things covered in the zoning ordinance, but we are also going to be having a forward proposal that's going to come to the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately to you all regarding low THC cannabis, I think dispensaries, but try not to think of them as pot shops or anything like that. It's a lot more structured and covered by state law, and I think more medically related. So those of you who thought it was recreational, sorry to disappoint you. But maybe I'll ask Mr. Akins if you didn't mind, maybe go as deep as you want on the alcohol and the cannabis.
Okay, well, the alcohol, yeah, we're just going to add a license for package sales of distilled spirits. And I was going to add excise tax, but I discovered when looking at the existing ordinance, there's already an excise tax that's the maximum of 22 cents per liter on distilled spirits in the ordinance, which I don't guess we've been collecting because we haven't had any sales of package distilled spirits up until now. So that'll be an amendment to the alcohol ordinance that will be on the agenda for the first meeting in August. And there will also be an amendment to the zoning ordinance that will include adding liquor stores as a conditional use in highway commercial. Right, James? Isn't that correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. And then on the THC oil issue, this is under the HOPE Act, which is basically Georgia's law that allows the dispensing of low THC oil and the production of low THC oil, subject to licenses from the state. And production is a different, that's where they're actually growing it and producing it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about dispensers, and there can be two types of dispensers. One is a licensed pharmacy that gets a license from the State Board of Pharmacy, which they just approved to issue those licenses. And then the other license would come from the commission under this law that's been set up, and those would be not non-pharmacies. You know, it could just be a retail outlet. What we're adding, and the reason this came up, Mr. Ben Ross, who owns Forest Heights Pharmacy, contacted us, and initially I think contacted James about an issue because the state law requires a dispenser to be at least 1,000 feet from covered entities, which are mainly schools and churches. And that's measured from property line to property line. So if the dispenser's property line abuts the property line of a church or school, or is within 1,000 feet of it, then they can't get a license under state law. But there's a provision in the state law that says local jurisdictions can issue a variance for that if they determine that it's necessary for their citizens to be provided with the low THC oil product. And the reason he contacted us is, I think most of you may realize, his property abuts Trinity Episcopal Church's property. So unless the county, the commissioners grant a variance, or really it would be the Planning and Zoning Board that would grant the variance, then he wouldn't be able to get a license. What we've added a definition for dispenser of low THC oil, and I'll just read this briefly. It's a pharmacy that has obtained a dispensing license from the State Board of Pharmacy to dispense low THC oil and products to registered patients, and that's a term in the law, in accordance with Georgia's HOPE Act. This use is not listed as a separate use in Section 802, but is allowed only as part of a licensed pharmacy, subject to supplemental standards in Article 14. And the supplemental standards are those distance requirements. So this is going to do two things. One, it's going to make it clear that under the zoning ordinance, a pharmacy that's licensed as a dispenser of low THC oil is allowed. But it also, I think, prohibits a non-pharmacy. So if we have a non-pharmacy that wants to be a dispenser of low THC oil, I don't think that's going to be allowed under our zoning ordinance currently. And it also does not address the production issue. And I don't know if you remember, there was a young lady that came to one of your meetings that talked about this, and she was opposed to it. But she said that you could stop it. And I had not read the law at the time, so I didn't know what she was talking about or if she knew what she was talking about. But I think she must have been talking about the production facilities, because in order to get a state license, they have to get a letter of support from the local jurisdiction. So without that letter of support, presumably they wouldn't be able to get a license. But I just want to make it clear that's not being addressed in this either. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. This is going before P&Z next Thursday, right, James?
Yes, next Thursday.
Right. And then it'll come to you in August.
I'm going to ask a question of you because I simply don't know. What is THC oil and what does it do for you?
Well, it's a cannabis product.
Explain that to me, too.
Well, marijuana, basically.
Oh, okay.
It comes from
Tetrahydrocannabis.
plant. Yeah, I'm not sure what does it stand for, Tom?
Tetrahydrocannabis.
Yeah, Tom knows a lot more about it than I do. So. But
let me redirect my question.
As far as what it does, I think it's been shown it's had a positive effect on people that have seizures. I know it's used for that. I think it's pain management. It's used some for that. And let me make it clear, this is, when it says registered patients, that, I don't know if you have to get a prescription for it. We've invited Ben Ross to come speak on this. He knows, he can answer probably a lot more questions than I can. But this is not just, anybody can't just walk in off the street and buy this. You have to have some sort of registration to get it. But the law, I didn't see anything in the law that explained exactly what that meant, at least not to me. But I'm sure Ben will be able to answer that completely.
Okay. Does any commissioners have any questions from Jeff?
Just for a little humor. On the street, it's that ooh-wee, the THC. It's what alcohol is to Jack Daniel, THC is to marijuana.
Quite possibly.
You through?
Yes. I was just trying to help.
You did tremendously. All right, any other staff have any comments to make? Then hearing none. Commissioners? Comments? I guess, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank all the ones, Sandy, I wasn't here, but the ones that worked all day long trying to get these microphones and all this that we don't know nothing about up here. I guess y'all done a good job. It looks good. I don't know how to run none of it, but appreciate all y'all done, people that done the work today. Thank you.
You know, I know we've heard a lot of exciting things tonight. One that really sticks into my mind is we got a grant for $269,000, and we've got to pay back maybe or participate with that grant of $20-something thousand. So those are the kind of grants we look for all the time. You know, to the ones that have question about taxes, we're still looking how we can, nothing has been solved yet. Or decided upon. We know we have to have these hearings coming up, and you know, I can recall this year maybe differently, but I can recall us having some in the mornings. Nobody comes. I can recall having some of these meetings in the evenings. I'm talking about the hearings, and nobody came. We were out of there in 15 minutes, and I can recall some of them whereby some people came, but we wanted as many people that can come and wants to come. But we are trying. I'll assure you, I think you can tell by the color of my hair that I'm close to being a senior citizen. I don't want to pay taxes either. And, you know, yeah, it's great to say, hey, Bulloch County has the lowest taxes among surrounding counties, but it's still, we don't know what the answer is. If this sales tax thing would work, I don't think this is just a Bulloch County effort. Don't we have to join with other counties, Tom, to make that work?
Ideally, yes, and all of the associated municipalities too. And, you know, I think it can work as long as nobody gets greedy.
Okay. Well, that we could have a discussion with the city and see how to approach this. And if it works, it would be great. You know, I guess the burden for senior citizens is say, we don't want to pay any taxes. We want to push it all off onto young people. Well, I've got some grandkids that's young people. I got some kids that's young people. Do I want to push taxes that I'm supposed to pay off? I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm going to quit. But there's just a lot more to it. So any other commissioners want to say anything? If not, then I'm compelled to read this next statement. I must now call for a motion to adjourn into executive session in accordance with the provisions of OCGA 50-14-3B1D and other applicable laws pursuant to the advice of County Attorney Jeff Akins for the purpose of discussing real estate matters. We're going to go into executive session. We may come back out into our regular session and take a vote. We may not. And if you want to hang around and see, you'll have to vacate this room. We really don't know what's going to happen until the discussion occurs. But I definitely appreciate everybody coming. We're going to do the best we can. We can promise you that. Thank y'all for coming. I need a motion to
So
go into.
Second.
We have a motion, second. All those in favor, show of hands, unanimous approval. We are now in executive session.